So in this video, I'm going to show you how to build a quote client in C#. And it's going to look a bit like that. So let's get started after the fade. So this is our listener code from the C++ video. I'll be doing an accompanying video for a C# version of this, but for now we're just going to use our C++ version of the code. So this will, if I go back to my main function here, if the message received is quote, then we are going to send a quote. So if I run this server just now, and then I run putty, then I type in quote, and you see that we get a quote back from Douglas Adams here. So our program, the Unity project that we're going to build right now, is going to basically do the exact same thing, but instead of going out to instead of using C++ or putty or something else, we're going to use Unity. Okay, so I'm going to create a quote client, which is going to be 2D. I'm going to create this just now, and I'm going to create a very, very basic scene. So the scene is just going to have a button in the bottom that says quote, and then I'm going to have text on the top there, and then there's going to be a little script that goes out to this port number here. So notice that I've still got my project running in the background. All right, so here's our untitled script here. So I want to create a UI element, which is going to be text. So I'm going to make this 16 by 9 for a start. And my scene looks like this. And here is my text, which I'm going to make quite big because I want the text to be fairly big. And I'm going to make that stretch throughout. And I'm also going to make that centered as well. And I'm going to make the text quite big as well. So 25, maybe 36. 36 quite big, isn't it? So it's going to look like that. And I'm also going to change the background of my camera to something a little bit lighter. So something like that. So now it looks like this. And then I'm going to have a button here, which is also going to be quite big, I guess. And that is going to be placed on the bottom. And the text for that is going to say quote or get quote. So get quote, and we'll make that 28. We can make that 36 as well. Okay, and we will save our scene here. So new folder scene. We'll call this quote client. Okay. So our scene is very basic, it doesn't do anything, and it just has one button inside it, and as soon as Unity fires up, we'll discover that. So I have the quote there, and it says new text in there, and that's it. Is this centered? It's centered now, I guess. So our new text is just going to be that. It's going to be completely blank. So we're just going to have our get quote button at the bottom there. All right, so now I want to create a new script. So I'm going to create a folder first, scripts, and my script is going to be quote client. So I'm going to call this quote client, and quote client is going to have a function in that's called get quote. It's also going to use the text. So it's going to be we're not going to write the glue code for it. Again, this is just a kind of bare bones type thing. Really, we want to abstract this, and we'll do this in later videos. But to get everything up and running, we're just going to do it inside the one script. And that one script is going to have be attached to this button, and also use the button in the image to display the quote. So firing up Visual Studio. Okay, I don't need a start, but I will need the update later on, and I'll explain why. So I'm going to have public text. So this is going to be our quote text, and of course we're going to add our UI. Get rid of these. I'm also going to have string IP address equals 127.0.0.1, and public int port equals 54010. So this makes it that we can change this. So if the IP address of the port number changes, we can change this inside our client. Sorry, we do need a start. Apologize. And we also need a couple of private member fields. So the first one is TCP client. TCP client, which is inside the NetSockets namespace. So we'll call that client. The next thing we need is we need a byte buffer, which we're going to give 49152. So we're just going to default it to some arbitrary value, which just happens to be 48K. So in our start function, we are going to try and connect to the client. We're going to access the stream when the client connects. And then once we do that, we're going to set up an asynchronous request. So that means that asynchronous is just that the message will come back at some point in the future, and it basically gets a callback to it. So remember we were talking about function pointers and delegates and things like that in C#. That's the very sort of similar thing. So basically a function gets called when a message gets received. So rather than it stalling out and waiting for the program to, receive a message, we can do other things as well. So you really want to use asynchronous for your transfer of data. And we can do the same thing for sending of data. We're not going to do that in this example, but we can do it for whatever. Okay. So we also need a public void get quote function, and I think we also need we also want to turn the button off, because although we want everything else to be updated, so maybe we've got like particle systems and God knows what else clicking on there, we don't want them to like hammer the quote button. So I think what we want to do is we want to turn that button off when we get a quote in there. So I'm going to say button.interactable equals false. To do get quote. So at that point we want to get a quote. I'm also not going to do any error checking in this one. When we come back and we do the abstract version of it, I'll do quite a lot of error checking. But for this bare bones one, we're not going to bother with that. So I want to create a new client, TCP client, and I want to specify the host name, which is IP address, and the port. And then I want to connect to it, so client.connect. So I'm now connected to, all right, I should be connected to the client. Does that not let me do that? Oh, right, of course, because I got it around the wrong way. So I want to connect to the client at that point. And then I want to say, I'll do some basic error checking, but if client.is connected, then I want to do client.get stream. So I want to get the stream. So the stream is the connection. That's if you're following along with the C++ version of this code, it's kind of like having your socket. Everything's done through there. Everything's done through the socket number. In C#, everything is done, or rather .NET, sorry, everything's done through the stream. So our stream, we want to begin a read. So, or do we want to begin a read? I don't know if we do want to begin a read right now, because we're not actually connecting anything. So maybe we don't want to have that. Maybe we just want to connect to the client. But we do want a void on destroy. We do want to say if client.connected client.close. So we want to kind of tidy things up a bit. When the object gets destroyed. And when we do the quote, what we want to do is we want to set up async read, send message, and that's it. So our async read is going to be var stream equals client.get stream. And we can also do if client.connected, if it's not connected, return. So that's just an early out to stop the function from running if client is disconnected. So if the client couldn't connect for whatever reason, we early out here. So I want to get the stream there, and then I want to set up a read. So I want to set up a read so that when I send information to the server, it then waits for that information to come back. So we do stream.beginRead. We have to specify the buffer, which is our buff, the offset, which is 0, and then the size of it, which is just buff.length, and then this async callback, which is going to be message received. And then the last parameter is the object state. We're going to leave that as null. We don't need that just now. And you notice we got a red squiggly because we don't have that function there yet, but we'll get to that in just a sec. And then our send message is just simply sending out the byte data, but the byte data that we want to send out is quote, because when we send out the word quote, we get that value back. But we can't send out a string. We have to send out a byte stream. So I need to convert that across. So I'm going to call this message equals, and then this is going to be encoding, which I need system.text for, .ascii.get bytes, quote. And that's going to get me my byte message, and then I do the same thing for the stream. I do stream.write, sorry. So I'm writing out here now. You notice that it's got async begin write. I'm not going to bother using that just now. I'm just going to use the blocking call. So the buffer is going to be message dot 0, and then message dot length. And that is going to write out this buffer to that stream, assuming that we have a stream. Now again, there's no error checking just now, so we're assuming perfect world scenarios. So we disable the button there. We set up the read. So at some point in the future, we're going to get a message back. And then once we get the message back, then we are going to re-enable our button and finish off everything. So this here sends out the bytes to the server, and then we're going to get a message response back. So our message response is going to be down here. I'm going to do void async result, which is going to be a squiggly, and then I do system. I say if res dot is completed and client dot connected, just in case it doesn't disconnect or whatever. I want to then finish off reading that, and when I finish off reading it, when I complete the read, it's going to tell me how many bytes were received. So I want to say int bytes in equals, and then I want to get the stream as well. So var stream equals client.get stream, stream.end write, end read, because we're reading, and I need to pass in the async result, which I have. So now I have the bytes in. Now, where are the bytes in stored? Well, the bytes in are actually stored in buffer. So begin read goes into buffer. So now buffer contains those values. So all I need to do is I need to construct my string from there. So my string, my message is my encoding in.ascii.get string, and then I specify the buffer, the starting index, which is 0, and then the number of bytes in. And I want to re-enable the button as well. So I want to say, what's the button called? It's called button. Button.interactable equals true. So I want to re-enable the button once I've received a message. So we have our string here, but there's a bit of an issue because this receive actually happens on another thread. So I don't want to set this straight away. I actually want to assign this to a variable that can be reset, and so like is not connected to the sorry, let me just rephrase that again. I don't want to set this immediately to the text. I don't want to do text.text equals message because this might cause problems. The way that the threading works, Unity doesn't like UI components and game objects in general being accessed from other threads. So we're going to have to wait and do some further processing. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this message and I'm going to make that a field up here. So this is going to be our received message. So this is going to be our received message. And I'm going to rename that. So our received message is going to be there. So we're going to have to block this off when we cancel it. So received message equals that. And the reason why we're going to do that is because if received message is not equal to an empty string or isn't null, then we're going to set the text inside our update. So if received message string dot is null or empty, not, then we want to say text.text equals received message equals empty string. So we don't want to keep spamming the text update because that can get quite expensive as well as far as processing is concerned. So we check to see if we have a received message. If we have a received message, we set the quote text to be the received message, and then we blank it out. I think that's us. Interactable to true. Okay, so at our start, we create our TCP client, we connect to the server. When the object gets destroyed, so when the scene gets unloaded, we disconnect the client. Our quote, our public function, so this is going to be our click event that we're going to set up in just a second. If the client hasn't connected, we bail early. Otherwise, we disable the button. We reset the received message just in case. We set up an asynchronous receive, so we're waiting for something to happen. We then send a message to the server, which will then kick off a reception, because when the server receives quote, it will send data back. So it sends data back inside message received. So we have receive is complete, client is connected, then we get the stream, we end the read, and then we set receive message to be whatever the bytes was that we sent it, encoded as a string. So that's what this bit does here. And then we re-enable the button interactability. Okay, I think we're good to go. We just need to wire things up now. So our button is going to have that script on it. So we'll call that quote client, and it needs the button. So we're going to drag the button over onto there, and we're going to drag the text on over onto there. And I'm also going to make sure that this is running, which it is. And I think we can just click get quote, and it won't work. Oh, I always do this. Okay. All right. I need to add a click event. So I'm going to add a click event to our button, which contains quote client, which contains get quote. All right. Okay. This is what I mean by wiring things up. We need to drag the buttons across and also add the click event. So now we press that and then we do get quote. There you go. So it does say get is plain can only be called from the main thread. So this is what I mean by this here. Okay, so it doesn't like the set interactable. So this is what I mean by, it's good that this happened. So it doesn't like the get interactable being set here. So what we can do is, we can, instead of having that inside the button receive here, inside the receive method, we can actually put that inside here. So now we have basically the main thread doing the update, and then over here we have we have one thread here spinning which is doing the update, and we have another thread here spinning which is waiting for a message to be received. So we have the two threads, and at some point this thread here will set a variable which is owned by the same object. This object will then pick this variable change up, and then we get things displayed on the screen, which is what this bit here is doing. So it's kind of like induction. We're not actually touching anything. We're trying to keep things separate. Okay, so if I clear this and now we run it, I should be able to keep hitting quote, and we should keep getting quotes. And we don't get any error messages here. So the longest part of the journey is said to be the passing of the gate. Okay, thanks Marcus. And you see that it's working perfectly. So we're talking to a remote server. So if I go back to our listener project here, and I set a breakpoint at this point, and I click on get quote, you see that we now jump it. So this is us now in C++. So we now have a Unity client over here. So this is our Unity client doing its thing, clause. And then we have our C++ server over here. And they're both talking to each other. It's pretty cool, isn't it? I think it's pretty cool anyway. So now it's saying client is 256, send the quote across. So now when I hit F5 and go back to here, we now see we get a quote, which I think is probably a bit too long for the font, but whatever. Yeah, and so that there you go. There's a quote from Milton: "Truth never comes into the world." Well, there we have it. That's Milton for you. Anyway, yeah, I think we'll end there. We'll end on that high note there from Milton. Thank you very much for watching. There is a companion video where we talk about doing a C# version of a TCP listener, which is the quote server, but it's done in C#. So if you're interested in that, there should be a link that way, up there somewhere. So yeah, thank you very much for watching the video. If you liked, thumbs up. If you didn't like, thumbs down. If you want timely reminders, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. There is a little button which I think is down there. Just a little button right there. Just click that little button there. I'm looking at the monitor, trying to get the right arrow, just right there. You don't have to if you don't want to, but you know, if you like the videos, then you might as well subscribe. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I know everyone's time is important, and until next time, take care.